All right, you got it.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back from the weekend. It is Monday, June 14th, and we will now call tonight's meeting to order. This is our work session for the month of June, and we do have a packed agenda. So I want to jump right into things with the first item, which is the approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Council Member Rout. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Council Member Mendoza. Any discussion? I just want to add a correction. It should say May 3rd, 2021 budget work session minutes. But other than that, I didn't see any other items. Or I'm sorry, let me back up. There was a request to remove item F off of old business. Chief, were you able to do that for the revised agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's coming out to you.
Okay, awesome. So those are the two changes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. So the first item under the approval of the minutes are the May 3rd budget work session minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I so move.
Moved by Council Member Rout. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Council Member Blunt. Any discussion?
All in favor?
I do
I'm
have.
sorry, there's an echo, Mr. Gray.
The ayes have it. Thank you so much.
His mic is open. All right.
Okay, he just muted it. Go ahead, Council Member Rout. It was just echoing when you were trying to speak.
So there are significant errors throughout all of the minutes, and I think that we need to take another look at our minutes, both sets for our work session for May 3rd, May 10th, May 17th, May 5th. There's a lot of information that was left out. So I'm not comfortable at this time. I didn't have enough time to actually do track changes, but I think we need to just take a pause and not approve those at this time.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Lundy?
Yes, I saw significant changes in the minutes as well, and because there were a lot, I even had to go back and listen to the recordings, and a lot of my own discussion was left out, especially given on the 5/17/2021 budget meeting. A lot of things were left out, so I agree that we should table approving these minutes into the next council meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember Lundy. Any further discussion from Councilmember Mendoza or Councilmember Blunt?
No.
And I have a question.
Councilmember Lundy?
Yes, for clarification, because certain things were left out and were left out of the minutes, that's going to affect us moving forward with respect to our budget. Does that affect? So, if it's not in our minutes accurately recorded, can it be brought up? It can still be brought up things as it relates to our budget meeting, correct?
That
Even
is
though they're not
correct.
in the minute, the recording is live and it does show that it was talked about. So it
Exactly.
is official. Okay.
Exactly.
Perfect.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
you.
right. And we can take our time and make sure that the minutes accurately reflect the permanent record.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any further discussion before we take the vote? All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
Nay.
Nay.
I only heard two people there. Councilmember Blunt, we couldn't hear you.
Do like this or up.
Councilmember Blunt, yeah, can you give us an indication? Are you an aye or a nay for moving forward to approve the meeting minutes?
Nay, because I want my budget.
Your audio came back. I heard you. So that's the nays. The nays have it. Thank you so much. So if you all could track your changes in there, again, these are just the minutes, so it's not to be dictation to have everything, but the major things that you notice we're missing, if you don't mind just tracking them so that we can make sure they're correct for approval in the July meeting, because the minutes do have to be included as part of our audit. So we do want to make sure, as you stated, that they're accurate and do reflect the permanent record. With that, we'll move on to old business. And the first item is the FY22 budget discussion. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Tonelli.
Hello, Mayor, council members.
Excuse me.
We had our last budget discussion was our Saturday committee meeting on June the 5th. And some of the things that came up there were, well, in the pending minutes, we added a public works director position about 3/4 time. I put that in there starting in October. We said October or November, depending on the needs analysis. So I did it based on a quarter. So had them starting on October 1st with associated benefits. We also put in a public works supervisory position starting July 1. We decreased the transportation budget for the call bus. Originally it was at 38, and we walked it back to the previous levels of 30,000 until we have a meeting with the port towns about this. And we also walked back the trash contract to its current level from budget 200,000 to the current level right now of 180,000. Those were some of the major issues that we talked about. We had some other discussion about building maintenance and grounds maintenance and street maintenance, but there were no amounts settled on. A lot of this was going to wait until we get a new town administrator on board and fill the public works director position on board to do a long-term capital plan, I guess we should say. So those were the major changes. To increase the expenditures, it did move the transfer from fund balance. It did move that up to $541,000. Now that sounds sizable, but if you look at my treasurer's report, I think we're going to end this year with, because of the major staff vacancies that we've had and everything, and revenues coming in higher than budget, I think we're going to end up with a positive impact on our fund balance of over $450,000. So easiest way to think about it is a lot of this is like timing issues. We didn't do it this year, defer it till next year. But it is something that we do have to watch and make sure that things are sustainable. What I put on this budget too is the last written information that we've received about the COVID package. There's additional funds coming. Sounds like those funds are going to be walked back considerably to 75% of your January 2020 budget. So we originally heard it's going to be close to $8 million. If that's true, what they're saying, again, this is all, nothing is set, so far, and Mary can help me out with this. But there's other factors involved too with the census tract and everything. So we're not sure exactly what the final amount is. Everybody is waiting. So, but that will be a separate supplemental budget that we will create, because that's going to be a long-term budget that's going to have to carry us through December 31, 2024. But that is my major changes, or what I pulled out of the budget discussion. I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Tonelli. So just one point of clarification. My understanding is that when we talked about the Public Works Department, we were advocating for a director position, but also an inline worker, not a foreman. And I noticed you said a foreman, which is a supervisor.
Correct.
So that's what I had in my notes. As far as the discussion for someone who's boots on the ground, not necessarily to add on to the managerial level. So I just want to make sure that's reflected accurately. And I'm looking at my colleagues in case, I jotted that down wrong, but I thought we were really trying to get workers to, another worker to support the public works team.
In that supervisory position, we call it a foreman. It's kind of like a crew leader. So they are boots on the ground. But that's what I got out of the discussion, I believe. I just watched the meeting on Friday, so that was consensus. And
thank you.
if some other people looks like their hands are up, could please weigh in to correct me or,
Sure. And just before I turn it over, I see your hand, Councilmember Rout. The other clarification was based on the call with Prince George's County. My understanding was the first influx of the funding that's coming through is based off 75% of your annual budget, but that's not everything. That's just the first phase of the funding coming through. But I didn't get the same understanding that the total amount would be reduced from the 7.8. So just wanted to just say that's what I heard on the call. Yeah. Okay. Councilmember Rout, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor James. So I want to start with Public Works because that's, I guess, where we are. I found lots of errors as it relates to the budget that was sent out to us. And I am ready to talk about those. I do agree with you, Mayor James. We did ask for an actual worker and not a supervisory position. And that a foreman to me is a crew leader, but that is it's in the phase of like a supervisor kind of person. We did not ask for that. We asked for a director and an actual worker. Keeping in line with Public Works. So that would mean a Public Works director, a supervisor, 1 foreman, and 5 crew with COLA and merit increases. So that actual compensation line would be reduced because if we get a worker, that would cost cheaper than a foreman. Additionally, I remarkably remember speaking about the contract and for the sanitation, and I had asked, and I thought that colleagues supported me for that line item to be reflected of actual, which is 180,000 and not 200,000.
I did miss that one, Ms. Rout. I said it. I said that at the beginning, and I didn't correct it on this draft. Okay,
thank you. There were some correspondence that came in over the weekend and last week as it relates to residents' concerns for code enforcement and to procure a code enforcement system to assist residents to be able to send needs, and have a track ticketing system. We actually tried that with our COVID relief funding. I don't know, Mr. Tonelli, if you recall that. You were acting town administrator at the time. But I was able to resend that out to my council. Chief Collinson also did some research as it relates to a ticketing system. But I do think that however much it's going to cost, the one that I suggested was to the tune of 36,000, and that was annually. I would like to see that reflected in the public safety budget. And so if we are keeping in line with these figures for FY22, if I have to choose a code enforcement ticketing system or a capital outlay, like a car, I would rather go with a ticketing system. I'm not sure if my colleagues agree with me, but I just want to put it out there. I was able to find one proposal, and that was the same company that we had proposed back when we tried to get those funds into the code enforcement part of the COVID response. And so I've resent that out. There's different options. There's a cheaper option. There's a more expensive option. This option was right in the middle. So that was for the code enforcement software. Another big issue that we received from is keeping with the public safety budget was uniforms. That's up for discussion as it relates to how much it will be per officer, but I wanted to bring to the attention of the town council and to the director chief that a couple of residents, 2 residents have sent me correspondence as it relates to the amount of allowance. I don't know what the going allowance rate is for officers in similar municipalities, but I think it's worth us taking a look at that as it relates to this budget. Moving to the finance budget, there is an error as it relates to the finance. It says accounting assistant. Is it accounting assistant or is it a finance clerk? I'm not sure.
I call her Jen. I don't know.
Okay, well, that's important that we name it, name the actual position, especially since she'll be retiring and we'll be reposting that position. It's very important to be consistent. So I do think, I see my colleague shaking her head. So I do think it's important to put the correct terminology into the notes section. We can't just name her Jen right there. Also, tuition reimbursement, line item 6110. There should be, so there's only 2 people in that department, the finance department, and I am just concerned that the tuition reimbursement line is a little high. And so I'm proposing a reduction of $1,700 for that FY22 budget line item 2500. I also wanted to note line item 6510 in the audit line. I see that there is adequate funding, but there is no comment here as it relates to the request I particularly made, and that was to name a forensic audit would be covered with those, because we don't want any misunderstandings as it relates to what we would be paying for with that line item. Moving down to the town clerk budget, my request is to further understand the marketing position. I know my colleague has sent numerous correspondence to you, Mr. Tonelli, and Acting Town Administrator Chief Collington as it relates to further understanding the marketing position. We know what the products that our marketing position does, but we don't know the actual title and what her duties are so that we can determine adequate resources. We know she does phenomenal flyers. We know she does the e-blast. We know she is working on the town website. But I have been asked questions by Ward 1 residents. Is that enough to have a full-time FTE, or can we reduce that down to a part-time FTE? So I'm looking to further understand that position description to make sure that the resources are adequately aligned with the needs of our town. In addition, professional development, line 6140. I'm requesting that this line item be 7K be added to this line, because this would be where the employees would be obtaining their professional development for like tuition reimbursement. I saw it was added to the town administrator budget, and as I can conceptualize it and as I can understand it, if I'm looking at each of the departments and their budgets, to me, that looks like the town administrator, who doesn't have any reports underneath his department, any like departmental reports, will be given 7K for tuition reimbursement. And it should actually be reflected that it for the town clerk budget, where there has the town clerk, the secretary, the marketing person, and the interns to be able to obtain professional development. Not sure if that makes sense to anyone else, but I didn't understand why the 7K wasn't there. In addition, I had advocated for line item 6570 under the equipment lease item to further understand the copier lease machine. Are we up to get a new machine? Are we up to, Is there a additional cost? I know when we're locked into a contract that limits us for a certain number, and the town council has all agreed that we need a better machine. So I'm not understanding by just it remaining the same if we would be eligible, or is there additional costs? So I would like to know more information about 6570. Moving to the town administrator budget, I would like to see the reduction for the tuition reimbursement to reflect $1,000. There's no need for 7K if we're adding that to the town clerk budget. In addition, for professional development, I think that should be reduced to $2,500 because there's only one person in that department, and that's inadequate. Transportation, I know I talked to Councilmember Blunt with that one, and I'm not going to take on that one. That's something that she would like to talk to you guys about, but I think that needs to be altered. And for the contractual services, I'm not too clear about the website. Do we still need a website developer to maintenance the website, or did we already pay for that? And if so, if we need a website developer to maintain the actual website, where would that fall under the town administrator budget as a consultant? Is that like a web-based consultant person, or would that be under the town clerk budget under advertising? I'm not sure where that be, but I did not see how we will maintenance the actual person that will maintenance, or is that a role of our marketing person? Because I still don't understand what she does. Moving up to the mayor and council budget, I see that there is information, and I talked to Mayor James today as it relates to our July 4th celebration. So I'm going not to propose any additions or subtractions on that line item, but I know that we talked about, are we having the fireworks? Are we not having the fireworks? So I'm gonna put a pin in that one. The fire department donation, I know there was hefty discussion when we talked about supporting our fire department. It was discovered that our fire department actually services other municipalities. And so I would like to know, are other municipalities giving towards our fire department? I know what has been always happening year after year is that wherever the fire department lies, the volunteer fire department, that is the municipality that supports that fire department. But I love our fire department. I think they are very responsive to our residents' needs. They are the first to respond, but I would like to have them do more of increasing their grants that they can generate some additional income. And we've been locked into that $30,000 since I've been a homeowner here, which is 9 years. And that's a lot of a donation. I would like to see that reduced by $5,000 and encourage them to go out and do other grants writing to procure support additionally from other municipalities. That's all of my edits. I would like to yield the floor back to Mayor James.
Thank you, Councilmember Rao. And just to clarify, so we have over time increased the fire department's annual donation. In addition to that, they also do fundraising to try to come up with money to cover their expenses through the bingos, the women's auxiliary, who I know you've worked with in the past. That's a big function of what they do. So even still, costs go up. They're in a very old building. And so that's why I've advocated that we support the fire department at that level. As you mentioned, they are our first responders, and the funding has been challenging for them. They came to us for support last year in light of COVID because of funding issues. And I've been grateful for our team supporting them, even with the grant money that we received from the federal government yesterday. But I would not be in agreement with dropping that particular donation down. I think if we could work with them over time to be more self-sustaining, where as it relates to grant funding and so forth, that makes perfect sense. With respect to some of the other changes that you mentioned, I want to turn it over to Mr. Tonelli, because I know I had the same understanding with the Public Works employee and inline worker Also had the 180K down that we discussed on June 5th. But as it relates to the code enforcement ticketing system, I wanted to ask Officer Reinhardt, with general code, I know that they offer some online services that we don't currently have as it relates to code. Is that part of the services they provide, or would we actually need to invest in a separate technology from that?
I believe we would probably have to invest in a separate program other than general code, because I know general code does a lot of the codification and renewal and updating the codes. But as for them to do a program to a actual ticketing program, I'm in full support of that. That is something that I've actually asked for in the past, and I think it keeps a clean tracking system of it, of the code. It actually, one, helps out me in my department. It also helps out the community also with that information. So I can kind of reach out to general code and see if they can recommend a program other than the one Mrs. Councilwoman Rout has already recommended. I know some other municipalities also have it, so I can kind of do some research on that, but I can't give you a price tonight or what's that going to be. But again, I am in full 100% support of that, because like I said, it's going to help me out. And maybe I'm going to defer to Chief also.
Sure, Chief Collington for that, and also as it relates to the uniforms for staff, if you want to comment on that as well.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor, Council, community, colleagues, and staff. With respect to the service ticketing program, I spoke with another municipality today to try to get some information on how they receive complaints, concerns from the community, and how they are tracked to up to the point of the mitigation, and is a response sent back to the original caller or resident. In doing so, I also spoke with our IT department, because I noticed when we send complaints to them, it automatically populates a service ticket, and it comes back to me as a recipient, but also it goes through to the whole IT staff, and including the manager. So with that system, I asked them to quality control it for me, and they love it. It tracks everything. You can upload videos. You can, if a resident wants to show us photographs of something they may observe, they can upload those to the system as well, and it will come through our code enforcement. But for checks and balances, it would also go to a manager who can oversee to make sure that the concern is handled appropriately and also in a timely manner. And as a result, the resident will get a notification that concern has been mitigated. So at that point, it will prompt the resident, if they want more follow-up conversation with our code enforcement, they can contact them then. But at minimum, what we hear the most is we don't hear any response back. So this would eliminate that and make everybody, hold everyone accountable. And then for transparency, it follows it all the way up through the manager's level. And you can set it up for who you would like that email to go to. But I know if I send an email right now to our IT department, within a minute, I get a service ticket generated, and it comes back with my original concern, but it also let me know we have your email, and someone will be following up with you. So what I would recommend a system, something like that, it's real time, and going by our IT people who we trust to give us good information, they strongly support the system that they have and that they're using. And I've sent some information to Councilmember Rout today, and I can share with everyone else. And then we can just vet it, because it did have a small demo clip, and there is a trial period, a free trial period that we can just link into. And if we like it, then we can vet it out some more. But on to the next item was the uniform allowance for the staff. I did read the public, the residents' concern, and their suggestion about someone in their family being in law enforcement and wearing uniforms. I would sort of respectfully disagree with that because I'm not sure what type of law enforcement they do. But I know that our officers can be climbing under cars, climbing in trees, climbing through windows. We do come in contact with biohazardous from time to time. And our uniforms do get damaged throughout the course of a tour of duty. So I would not recommend reducing that at all. This is, and we are appreciative of the council for the uniform allowance, but I can tell you that it is much less than where I came from. And I can tell you that officers they aren't pocketing the money. I see officers every day when their uniforms are ripped or damaged in the course of their duty. So uniform allowance is very much needed. And I will respectfully ask that that line does not get decreased because we do not want officers out looking substandard, showing up for calls. We do want our police department to be reflective of a professional organization. And that's what I have for that.
Thank you, Chief, for that information. And then Mr. Tonelli, coming back to you with respect to the copier, that's something that we talked about previously, and just want to give you an opportunity to address the concern that was brought up with respect to that.
Well, that is something that we're gonna have to go out and get quotes on. I did receive one quote already. It's around $9,800 for the purchase of the machine, or it's going to be an annual lease with the copier maintenance. Now, that's close to. We need to get some more quotes. Right now it's it'd be nice to. When a town administrator comes on, town clerk comes on, get some more help in here, we can go ahead and, start aggressively getting quotes for these systems. Because at last week's budget meeting, I think the council said they just didn't want to put in figures if we didn't have the solid quotes yet or anything. But we're on a month-to-month with this after July, I believe. And it'll be at the same rate until we can go out and get something, start getting the quotes. The one I did receive was on the state contract, but there are many on a state contract. So it's not apples to apples. So you got to look at all the specs and everything. But that could be more of a capital purchase. But then doing some research about the telephone system, it looks like telephone systems and infrastructure related IT, cybersecurity, scanning systems could all fall under the COVID grant as well. So this is something that, just came up a couple of days ago. So I'm looking into that. And we have a meeting tomorrow with MML, with the State Department of Budget and Management, who hopefully can give some more guidance about that as well.
Yep.
Great, thank you for that. Councilmember Rout.
Yes, so you say you got one quote, Mr. Tonelli. Can you
Yes.
share the cost, the annual cost for that one quote so that we can understand what that figure is?
Give me a few minutes.
Thank you.
Sure, and while that's being brought up, I do want to come back to the position of the marketing person on staff. And I know Chief is currently acting town administrator. Mr. Tonelli was previously acting town administrator, and wanted to see if you could both address the concerns with the responsibilities of that person. I know a job description was requested, but to my knowledge, that person has a full-time amount of work to do, but you all would know better than I would. You're there on site. So if you could speak to some of the responsibilities for that position, that would be helpful to address the concerns that were brought up.
I can go first if you don't mind, Vito.
I'm looking for
Yes. Well, I did respond back to council member with the job description, and it was quite lengthy. It was what I was given from Mr. Tonelli, which was also drafted by our former town administrator. I'll say that. However, I will say that the duties and responsibilities that our marketing specialist take on daily, she does take on a heavy load. I do realize the fact her work conditions at this point. We have spoken as early as late as last week, and so she will be returning to full duty. Full duty inside the building. But I would say that she has been very instrumental in developing our new website, and it may not seem as involved as other positions, but it is very time consuming what she has to do from time to time. And that is, when we developed this new website, we needed this website. She had to work very closely with the vendors to design it. And on top of that, everyone has been stepping up with the vacancies in the two critical positions that are on the town side. So I would say that we would not be benefiting ourselves to make that position a part-time position. We can take another look at it, but I do know that Ms. McDowell has been very instrumental in helping us. She's definitely been a great help to me. She's been a great help to the cops team. So yes, we talk about designing flyers, but we don't just think that we need a flyer and it mysteriously appeared. She's very task oriented. So it takes time to do what she do, even though it doesn't seem like it's a lot of moving parts that she do every day. But what she does, when she do take on tasks, they are very, very integral to the mission that we are trying to achieve, whether it's a community event, whether it's something for the town, or it's something for treasury or for the public safety. So I would say that I can resend it out to everyone and then take another look at it. But I would not say that'd be a good idea to make this position a part-time position with the caseload, because we will be asking a part-time person to take on full-time responsibilities. So that's my input on that. I think that what Ms. McDowell does is very, very important to the functionality of the police department and the town government itself. Thank you. And Vito, you can help out with that.
Thank you, Chief. And Mr. Tonelli, before I come to you, I do understand that she was extremely in the weeds because she had to redevelop a lot of the content for the website that could not be salvaged.
Right.
And so trying to put that all together, in addition to pushing the different departments to give her as much background as she could to reconstruct those areas of the website. Like you said, it may not seem like it's intensive, but my understanding is it is, because for my full-time job, we've just gone through this process under a tight timeline. And not only that, but just like we went through previously with the old or former website developer, I understand sometimes you keep that contractor on because there's trainings that have to be involved as you're getting your staff to the point where they can continue the maintenance and continue to build out ad pages, especially if you're working in the CMS system. And so she's going to be that point person once the agreement and sort of hand holding that we may currently have with the vendor goes away. That's going to be her responsibility. And so as we're continuing to add on our services and these new tools and technologies, she's going to be very much involved in integrating those systems, like the ticketing system Councilmember Rout spoke about, and some of these other things. That integration process of getting that connected to your website is very, very involved. Mr. Tonelli, I believe you had some information to add.
I mean, when I was acting town administrator, I think, her position is very important. I was in contact with her several times a day. I mean, it's getting information out, and that's what, we try to do. The website was very important, but, we never stopped the community events. We never stopped, putting out the e-blasts. We never stopped putting out the community notifications. I mean, things like this take, it takes resources. It takes time. It takes somebody that knows it and push it out there. It's somebody you can rely on. So I think if we're trying to keep up our community engagement, it's a very important position. As far as a website maintenance, this is, I guess I'm just, what we went through last year and up through this year. I'd rather keep that money in there as a just in case money because it's so important. And we lived through what it's like to not have it. And I really don't want to go through that again. So I want to have somebody, you know, that's going to jump right in if something's wrong, fix it, something crashes. I don't know, but you know, how many months were we down that website? 6 months? No, 6 months, 7 months, I believe. It went down, I want to say October 5th or October 14th. And I think it just came up, Chief announced, I think at the May 10th meeting, it came back up. So it's somewhere around there, and that's a very long time. And we lost all the content, unfortunately. So because there's no, you know, there's no handoff from the previous one. They just,
Yeah.
I hate to say, they literally just disappeared along with all our data. And, you know, I don't want to go through that again. So, I mean, that's an important part of the marketing position, important part of the budget there. But that's just me talking from past experience.
Thank you, Mr. Tonelli. So I do know, just looking at the time, it's 6:14 and we still have several
There's some other items on here.
items. Yeah, so if you want to touch on those quickly.
The tuition reimbursement we talked about in the, I want to say, in the unapproved.
Mayor James, there are 2 council members that had their hand raised.
I have
on
my
that
hand
item.
raised.
Oh, I apologize for that.
Watching the camera, I'm sorry.
Give me yeah, because my boxes keep jumping, so I missed that. Council member, who had their hand up first, please? Council member Lundy, I'll come over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Rout. And so I know we have issues with these hands, so that's why I raised my human hand. So I do agree that the marketing position is very important. In fact, I've worked with the current marketing person who's in that position on green initiatives and everything, and we work very well together. My situation is that I requested the position description. I received a job announcement that was dated 2018. And I know that this person has been working in this position prior to 2018. And to the date, I don't need to receive another job description. I need to receive the council needs the mayor and council, Bladensburg Council, town council, we need a position description for that position that is current, that reflects when this position was, you know, activated or became official. Because as we said, going forward with our new town administrator, we need to have, and the town clerk and all these positions, we need to make sure that our personnel position descriptions are accurately reflected. I see that we did make the correction for the finance clerk from the accounting, whatever, it was the accounting assistant, which was, the PD said it was a finance clerk. So I do see that Mr. Tonelli made that correction. However, for the marketing specialist on our org chart, it still says marketing specialist, but I don't know what the position title is. But based on what I received from Chief through Mr. Tonelli, from Chief Collins, acting town administrator, through Mr. Tonelli, was a job description that said for a marketing / events coordinator. So you can see why I was kind of confused there. And that was supposed to be one of the outcomes and action items that I sent several emails on. And to date, I still have not received any response. I have not received a position description. So we don't need another copy of a job description. And whoever hasn't received it, you all can get it. But we need to see a current position description. So that's
Councilmember Lundy, thank you for waving your hand. Thank you for your patience and
I know
for
my human
clarifying
hand.
that. Yes, because I'm telling you, your boxes will move and it's a lot to manage. And so it sounds like what we'll have to do is with this new town administrator, if that job description does not exist, it needs to be written. That's all there is to it. And so we can certainly set that as an assignment with a due date so that we can get that done. I have no idea why it has not taken place, you know, so far.
Follow up.
Yes, Councilmember
Yeah.
Lundy.
With all due respect, and I'm not trying to be rude, but in the the council meeting that we had, the work session we had, Mr. Tonelli did indicate that he thought we had it. But how we can't have no employee working here and they don't have a position description, how are we evaluating them, how we're holding them accountable to what they do or do not do. So that's not acceptable that we don't have one now for someone. What did they receive when they accepted the position? I'm sure the employee should have something. I know when I used to work, I got a position description. So with all due respect, love you dearly, but I'm just saying, I understand what you're saying, but I just think that's not acceptable. But if it's that we have to do, I can understand what you're saying, but that's weird
Right.
to me.
I can't take anything away
That's
from
weird
you,
to me.
but my thing is we need to fix it. And that's where my effort is. I can't speak to the why. I really can't. I wish I could tell you why, but I think it's our responsibility to work with the new town administrator to resolve that. And as part of their job as the chief administrative officer, our expectation of that individual should not just be to do it for this position, but across all positions. That's part of what that role entails, is making sure that's done. Again, I don't know why, but hopefully we can work together to fix that. Councilmember Blunt, was your hand up also before I go? Okay, Councilmember Rout.
Thank you, Mayor James, for calling me. I do support what my colleague said. I'm not going to reiterate it, but I think that is the reason why the community is concerned. So my role as a council member is to hear the taxpayers and hear what they have to say, and businesses and taxpayers. Businesses, business owners, as I do my circulation through the town, they have asked if our marketing department can market their businesses. And so that is another added idea that has to be shifted but if we don't understand as the leaders understanding good governance, we can't ask for that to be done, because on this position description that was shared by my colleague, it says event planner. Now, we don't understand the why, but we do have some type of documentation. So if that person in that role is supposed to be marketing and event planning, then that needs to be done. So I'm not taking anything away from Ms. McDowell. I think she's phenomenal. She helped with the My Peace Mental Health Awareness Day. Anything I have asked her to do, she does. I'm taking the person out of the position, because that is what professionals do. And if this position says this position should be doing something, this position needs to be doing these specific things. In addition, there are residents in Ward 1 that have sent correspondence to me asking if our town can be highlighted, such as, and they've sent me examples, College Park has a marketing director. Can we model our marketing after College Park? I know College Park is much larger, but they have a similar position and a similar role, highlighting our waterfront park, more than just doing our e-blast during our weekly, updates, flyers, things of that nature. So that's why it's very important in understanding the scope of services that this position does. And so I have to advocate what my business owners and my residents are asking me to do. Once again, it's taking the person out of the position and advocating on behalf of those that I serve. So I just want to make that clear. It's nothing against the person in that role, but I have to I am the voice of the public, as I'm elected to be placed to do so in this position. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. I think we're in agreement. It's time to move on. Otherwise, we're not going to get to these other items that are equally as important. And I appreciate everyone for sharing. At this time, is there anything else relating to the budget discussion that we need to discuss before moving on?
Yeah, just a couple things. Councilmember Rout asked about the copier lease, proposed. Here's one proposal. Everybody see it? See a copier there? Okay. See if I make it a little bit larger. It's a nice machine. 60 pages per minute. I think the one that we have out here right now is a 50. This is similar to the one that the police department has. Very similar to it if you see it over there. Cost, total cost out of pocket, purchase price, right under $10,000, and then there's your lease options. Historically, we've leased them. Anything here needs to get approval, obviously. What would fall into our budget right now? What we have currently budgeted, what would fall in there would be the 48-month lease along with the associated maintenance. That would fall within our FY21 and also for the unchanged FY22 budget. So, and there is a state contract. Ms. Ferguson can help me with this. What this references, haven't looked this up yet for, again, this is from the vendor. Haven't verified this yet. And I'm sure there's a way to verify this, but this is something that, if it's according to our purchasing policies, which I think Ms. Ferguson said last time that we can piggyback on state contracts. I believe we did say that. That's something that we can go ahead and get now, or we wait until we get more quotes. So just putting that out there.
Ms. Ferguson, Mr. Tonelli did reference you. Before I go to Councilmember Lundy, I wanted to see if you wanted to chime in there with respect to the NASPO master agreement number.
Sorry. Right here.
Okay, if the organization is created by some state or local government law, you can use it. But I want to go back and just double check for 1 minute to make sure you've got the piggyback option. So I will do that right now.
All right.
Thank you. Councilmember Lundy, I did see your hand and wanted to turn it over to you.
What's that? Thank you, Mayor James. So, Mr. Tonelli, can you scroll down to the maintenance?
Oops, I'm sorry.
What does that entail? Where is that? The maintenance for this, the maintenance agreement that goes along
The
with
maintenance agreement covers the everything on the copier except for paper. So
where is it? I saw something that said maintenance. I think it's up.
I gotta scroll down and find it.
Right, here we go.
Nice thing about this, devices are brand new inventory. Last 2 copiers we've had here have come off lease purchases, and we could tell. They did reset the counter, but they had. It's kind of like zeroing out the odometer on a trade-in, pretty much. But it's good because these are brand new inventory. The maintenance normally is not spelled out here, but it normally includes everything but the paper. So they supply the toner and come out within a set amount of time. I think they said within 4 hours if there's a break or something. But don't hold me to that. I'm trying. That's not on here, but that's what was said in a previous conversation.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Tonelli, for pulling that up. Councilmember Lundy, did that answer the question that you raised with respect to
thank you so much.
maintenance?
Thank you.
Okay. So anything else under the FY22 discussion? Any other comments or questions? I'm sorry, Mr. Tonelli, hang on for me. Councilmember Blunt, I see you.
I don't see the hands going up, so I'm sorry if I jump in with somebody.
Sorry, I hope you all can hear me. It was more about the transportation. We did have a meeting about the transportation. It's a lot. It's a lot of unresolved issues with the transportation. Just in the COVID, I think it's like the quarter, we spent $121 per person just to go to Walmart. So it's a lot of unresolved issues with the transportation. So I kind of want to leave that open until do I have time to leave that open, or I don't quite know, because it's a lot. I'm not filling the bus, but it can work if we have partners. And 2 municipalities has pulled out so far.
Councilmember, I believe when we had the June 5th work session, you were mentioning how difficult it was just trying to get information and get a meeting together. And so I believe where we left it, and tell me if you feel differently, was allocate something for it, but we're not committing to that until the issues and concerns have been resolved. Because if we have to get another solution in place, it's better to have something to work with versus zero. But is that what you were referring to?
Pretty much so. And I'm leaning to more, well, we were told if we at least had 20,000. And I see that that's there, but not to commit at all to anything. at this time. And also, I just want to say one more thing about the marketing. Of course, I haven't had a chance to work with Medal, but if you're taking just the position itself, I'm hoping if we have to rewrite this description, her job description is not based on what happened now, and we can go back and find what she was originally hired for, because then that would tell us what her job description is, and not go on to tell what she's doing now. Because again, marketing, event planning, that position you can do a lot more with just e-blast, and that you can market the town, you can market so much. So again, I agree with my colleagues with the marketing situation. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Blunt. I don't see any other hands at this time. And that was the agenda item with respect to the FY22 budget.
Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Tonelli.
Yeah, there's some other things on there too that were brought up at the,
Okay.
Talking about the, I believe it was the tuition reimbursement. I think Councilmember Rowd asked to put that back into the clerk's position. Based on the May 17th discussion, we said that the $7,000 would be under the town administrator position for the administrative positions, such that under the town clerk as well. So it went under the town administrator budget to be divvied out with the administrative positions, to include the town clerk budget as well. That was part of the May 17th discussion. We can walk that back out and change it and break it out. You know, it doesn't matter. So I just need some direction here, because, you know, we need to get into, you know, it's going to be brought up at the next meeting.
Right.
So and I think the council needs a clean copy of the budget before, you know, or
right.
or we just take the changes and put that in there.
So, Mr. Tonelli, I think it was in the context, and you all chime in if I'm incorrect. Oh, Ms. Ferguson, go ahead. I see your hand raised.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I have to leave in just a minute. I did want to say that the only reference to contracts and for purchases and bids is it leaves it to the mayor and council. I understand that you have administratively set a certain amount that requires it to go out to bid. So because there's no actual restriction there, you can authorize the administration to go ahead and accept a substitute for that. You really should go ahead and put that in your code though, and where you recognize the different kinds of bids that you can, as they refer to it, piggyback onto. Generally, those would be other governments and agencies that have bidding procedures similar to yours.
Thank you. So I do understand that needs to be, like you said, changed in our code, so it's clearly spelled out.
Yes.
Okay.
But
so,
I think, and based on your code is very open and vague about this at the moment. And as long as the council knows the process and agrees to it, it looks as if you can do it.
got it. Thank you so much for that. And I understand you have to run for another meeting, but do appreciate you taking the time to join us this evening.
Thank you.
And Mr. Tonelli, one other thing I was going to say, I was just looking at my notes from previous conversations, and I think, and you all jump in and tell me if I'm not remembering correctly, but in the context of tuition reimbursement specifically, we talked about putting a policy in place so that if you go and get your degree or an advanced degree, there's some sort of stipulation that you don't leave right away for a certain amount of time. And given that the town, given that the town administrator really has to oversee that, I'm wondering if that was maybe the justification for moving it there. And I didn't want to share it before this meeting because it's more policy focused, but I have draft language for a policy to put in place that I'd like to discuss with the council members and the new town administrator, so that we have a clear outline of, if you get your degree and you leave within X amount of time, this is how much you have to pay back. Again, not to belabor the point, but I'm wondering if that was sort of the justification for moving it there, so that the town administrator is literally managing and approving to ensure that you're not just going to school to go to plumbing school. If you're a clerk, you know, they're the ones checking to make sure that it's in line. And that kind of feeds into why I feel so strongly that we need an HR professional, because they're properly trained in handling those kind of things. They have the certifications. We can contract them for those services without taking on the burden of a full-time employee. Councilmember Rout, I see your hand.
Thank you, Mayor James. So I do recall that, and I do agree if that's what we're doing across all departments. For example, in the police department, their professional development for position reimbursement lies in the police department's budget. So we have to be consistent across the board. So if we're going to put 7,000 times whatever departments, then we need to put that all under town administrator, and that's where it's all going to lie. It's not equal is what I was trying to bring to the council's position attention. Thank you. Yeah, bye.
Thank you, Councilmember Rout. So, Mr. Tonelli, just want to get your feedback there. I think it's true. We do need to be consistent. And frankly, ultimately, it should be the town administrator ultimately signing off on the use of those funds, nothing against the directors, but ultimately they're going to be held responsible, and in making sure that people don't just slide out the door after they've gotten their advanced degrees without being held accountable. So again, that's what I'm thinking was the reason for putting it there. And if that was the thought process, I think it does make sense, but perhaps it's for all administrative related positions. It's housed in the town administrator budget. For all public safety, it's housed under the police department budget, or perhaps it's all just under the town administrator, and there's a form that's created that staff have to fill out in order to request use of those dollars. So again, we just have to be consistent.
Yeah, so it's where you all want to see on the budget. So
yeah, would you all be okay just putting it under the town administrator? And so that way it's part of the file, the employee's file. There's a form in there that's created. They're signed off on that agreement. So there's only one place you have to go to find that information. Two hands. Chief Collington, I'll come to you right after Councilmember Rout.
So if that's however we do it, I'm okay with it being consistent. So if it's going to be in that for tuition reimbursement, if it's only going to be in the town administrator's budget for all departments, then that's where it lies. If the directors are going to have, I was under the impression it's two approval processes. The town administrator is not going to have finance cut the check unless the director approves it.
Right.
I'm actually in favor of it lying within each departmental budget so that each department can understand what because they may not, for example, what happened with the police department, they went over on one, but they were under professional development, but over on another. That was explained at that same meeting. So they were able to offset what was underset, or I don't think that's a word, but yeah. So something happened there, and the director, as it was explained, Chief Collington, was able to say, no, we didn't use this budget all, so I just borrowed from this part. I think it should lie in the directors.
That's totally fair. Chief Collington, coming over to you. And again, I don't have a dog in the fight one way or the other. I just want to make sure that we're doing it above board and in a consistent manner. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to belabor the time, but I just wanted to chime in just to make the point that as it relates to the police department, we do have a process where, as a incentive to hire officers, we do reimburse them for some of the candidates put themselves through the police academy. We do make them sign a 3-year contract, and we only pay up to what the Prince George's Community College pays for their tuition to put civilians through the police academy. So I was just going to add that piece, but once Councilmember Rout said that she would like for it to stay with the directors, because there's a form, there could be a routing form that it goes from the supervisors to the directors, from the directors to the town administrator. It has everybody's signature. We're in agreement. We all understand it. Then it continues to the treasury, the treasury department. So I'm definitely in agreement with, but I just want to make it, clear to the council that when we fill these voids, a lot of times we get a lot of applicants that put themselves through the police academy, and we do reimburse them for just what the Prince George's Community College pays. And as an incentive, we break it down over 3 years. So they do sign a 3-year contract with us. If they leave, they pay all that money back to the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And Councilmember Lundy, I think I saw your hand.
Yes, thank you, Mayor James. And not to belabor the time, however, on June the 4th, I did send an email, a follow-up email to Acting Chief Collington as well as Mr. Tonelli. And my recommendation was, and I specifically reading my comment, my budget recommendation was, therefore, I do not think it unreasonable to have the tuition reimbursement budgeted line item included as a part of the town clerk and public works departments respectively. In other words, supporting my colleague's recommendation. So I submitted that a way back right after this because we wanted to put it all in the town administrator's budget, but for the reason that she had, clarified it and everything, I had also submitted that budget recommendation as well. So I just wanted to have that to be for the record. I put it in writing.
Yeah, I was just going off the actual discussion at the work session though, and that's what was decided upon. So, and that's what I have in the minutes. But, again, that was a month ago. If, it's up to the council, I'm just putting in what I get from conversations and make the changes to the budget. So, I mean, it's up to, the mayor and council, obviously.
Yep. And so it sounds like just to keep things moving, the consensus is to put it in the respective departments because there is a multiple approval process from the director first, then to the town administrator, and then final sign off with the treasurer. So if we could just do that across the board. And then just to reflect the reduction for the town administrator for that tuition reimbursement to be adjusted down, I think $2,500 was the amount that I heard.
Mayor James, $2,500 for professional development and $1,000 for tuition reimbursement because the acting town administrator could need a CEU or 2 or something like that. That would be a total of professional development and tuition reimbursement of $3,500, which seems adequate for one professional.
Thank you.
Again, Councilmember Rout, I'm sorry. The 2,500 and 1,000.
Yes, that's correct. 25 for professional development and 1,000 for tuition reimbursement.
Down tuition reimbursement. And these are going over into the
town administrator.
No, that was reduced in the town administrator budget now. Or is this money going over and then into the town clerk budget? Is that a strike and replace or is it?
Mayor James, may I respond?
Yes, Councilmember Rout.
That is correct, Mr. Tonelli. The 7,000 would be a not to exceed for professional development because there's 3 positions at interns in that role: town clerk, secretary, marketing position / event coordinator, and intern. So there's a lot of positions in there.
So I guess the question comes, what happens in the council meeting when we go to the FY22 budget approval?
Right, because per our charter in the state of Maryland, we do have to approve it this month. So if we need to give you time to make the edits and come back with a clean budget, we may just have to have a separate meeting for that and move through everything else on the agenda in the 7 o'clock meeting.
I don't think I'm gonna have time to get it this evening.
No, I figured.
Yeah.
And then also just to, make sure the minutes are consistent with the changes. So if we have to come back next Monday, so be it.
About the minutes, I mean, we don't have a town clerk. I produced the minutes for the budget session. So if there are specific things have to be added, struck, replaced, inserted, deleted, I'd like to know instead of just like a blanket comment that, the minutes are wrong. So it's.
Mayor James,
Yeah,
may I
so
respond?
one moment, council member. So the thought behind that, Mr. Tonelli, was that it was brought up previously that those who had changes would provide track changes
Okay.
in the document and forward them back to you. So you don't have to guess what was missed.
Good. Okay.
Okay. All right. So that's what we'll do. Councilmember Rout.
Yes, I agree, but I think it should be a coordinated effort because I write policy and sometimes then you're gonna have to go back and retract. So whoever gonna do it first, we should have a sign up sheet and giving like 48 hours for this person or whoever's gonna be doing that, because it would be a disaster if I send some compliments, Councilmember Lundy sent some comments, Councilmember Mendoza sent some comments, and then Mr. Tinley gotta do all three. That's not fair. So I think it needs to be a coordinated effort and we need to take turns with whatever the version is, tracking it, and the new town administrator or Chief Collington should be the point person because that's a disaster and we don't need to do that to Mr. Tonelli.
Thank you, Councilmember Rout. So at this time, it sounds like there's agreement to table the budget approval in our upcoming meeting to allow time in order to provide edits and additions to the minutes. And so we will let the incoming town administrator be the quarterback on that and getting comments and take it from there just to keep it as least confusing as possible for everyone. So at this time, the next item up on the agenda is discretionary funds. And Councilmember Mendoza, I want to turn it over to you. I know you had reached out with something in mind.
Don't we normally do this at the budget meeting?
Yeah, so we have to approve it there, but I didn't know if you wanted to just give a quick update or we can just hold it
We can
and
just hold it.
cover it there. Okay, is everyone fine with that? Because we can't vote on it anyway, because it's a financial matter. All right, thanks. The next item is MML conference. Did someone request to have this on the agenda?
Actually, I just came up with an idea, just put on the agenda just to, as we're creating this a couple weeks ago, just to iron out who's going and everything. But I think, we all know who's going. I think there's 3 council members going as of right now. And we're doing the in-person conference versus the online conference. In-person conference, obviously, you get more out of it. So, but that's all I had. So, and that's something that, can be put back on the agenda at the July meeting. What we've done historically, and we didn't do it last year, obviously, but the July meeting, come back and just do like a rehash of what the council members and the mayor and even the staff who went there about the sessions that were attended and just to give the public an update as well.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Tonelli. I saw a hand from Councilmember Rout.
Thank you, Mayor James. And I want to let the public know that I requested to go down a day before, which was a slightly elevated cost for the hotel that I would be staying in. It was a little bit lower because I belong to an association where I was able to use a discount, but I am going down a day before because I don't want it to come back. Oh, Councilmember Rout, she stayed in the hotel a day before. That's the purpose of traveling there, being able to rest because of medical conditions. I do need to get some adequate rest before starting the actual day. And so I want to thank Chief Collington and Mr. Tonelli for reconsidering the request that was previously denied for the purposes of that. So I did want to make that known at this meeting to let the public know.
Thank you, Councilmember Rao. And I understand, I know registration normally starts around 12 and then sessions actually start around 1. So definitely understand why someone would want to travel in the day before and not the morning of.
And Mayor
At
James,
this
I'm
time,
sorry.
Councilmember Lundy.
Yes, and then I will not be traveling. I will be attending virtually, so the public can know I will be doing the virtual conference. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Anything else on MML? Great, thanks. So the next item on the agenda is the Prince George's County vaccination efforts. It's 6:48, so I want to say we may have to reconsider some of these other items for a separate meeting because I don't want us to rush through them. They are important, and frankly, with the one that's well, a couple are financial related, so we may just have to push those over into the council meeting. Particularly if they're going to be requesting votes on those items. But Councilmember Rout, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor James. I was able to attend. There is a vaccination coordinated effort that is led by the county's health department. And I was asked for the leader of that ad hoc group to attend because the leader of that group heard about all of the vaccination efforts that I was doing independently without the help of the health department. I have CC acting town administrator on all correspondence as it relates to corresponding with the leader of the Prince George's Healthcare Action Coalition. Now they have specific asks, and I shared that in a memorandum that was sent individually to all members of the council. The group met today twice. I was able to attend both meetings. The first group is with the wider Healthcare Action Coalition with all of the partners. We understand who has vaccines, who's able, other than the county mobile vaccination unit, to be able to deploy and assist. I mean, there's phenomenal partners. Luminous Healthcare, MedStar is on there. There's many, many, many different partners. And I would like to, I had a couple ideas. There's actually a Route 1 corridor meeting that's held Monday afternoons, and I was able to attend that one as well. And our zip code 20710 has been identified by the health department as a targeted community for targeted vaccination efforts, which means that there are 10 municipalities in Prince George's County, and Bladensburg is one of them. And so their approach is to be very relational, in person, non-traditional efforts in relation to vaccinations, multiple smaller vaccination sites, walk-in and coordinated through the health department. The resources that they have offered up, they have a barbershop coordinator, Maryland National Parks and Planning are able to give resources for vaccination efforts where we can get tables and chairs from the county. Luminous Health has mobile vaccinations in addition to the vaccinations that is coordinated by the county. MedStar, I talked about them, health department, Giant Pharmacy is on that list who attend these meetings. On June 23rd, 2021 at Artworks Now, they'll be giving out free pizza at this event. And it will be an art sponsored event for anybody. I have sent that over to Acton Town Administrator to see if we could get that on our e-blasts for this upcoming Thursday. We can borrow road signs for communicating. Any addition, the ones that we have, we can get those road signs. They also have canvassers. If there's a targeted area or group, we can ask for those canvassers to come and knock doors and sign people up. There will be the University of Maryland students, they can lead community conversations that we can tap into to increase vaccine confidence. I shared on that memorandum their Google vaccination calendar, which is all of the vaccination efforts from the county sponsored. Specifically for Bladensburg, there is 101 individuals that live in Bladensburg over the last year who tested positive, screened positive, or at risk of being positive for vaccination, and they would like to work with us to work through these 101 individuals to see if they have been vaccinated and offer a vaccination to them and arrange for vaccinations in town for them. That was a specific ask. They would like our summer schedule of events so that they could coordinate to have a mobile vac unit at each and all of our events. So that's a need. And then it came up on a Route 1 corridor call. They asked me if I had any ideas for any focused events, because they feel that myself and Councilmember Lundy and Blunt and you, Mayor James, have been very successful with the municipal targeted outreach. They highlighted us individually on this call. And so what I did say is, I think it would be a good idea for us to have a targeted outreach at a game truck and or a rap battle that's taking place at the same time for our teens and our younger population, 12 to 25, at our community center. The director of the National Parks and Planning, he agreed that he will pay for this game truck for this clinic, but it has to take place on the weekend because the community center is opening up. I would like to ask for the council support for this particular event, and with the partner that's offering free personal pan pizza, that partner will be able to come to this event and provide pizza to all of our teen residents, or young adults, 12 to 25, that will be getting vaccinated. They also asked me, well, how can we reach the apartment complexes? And I said, well, we've had a lot of success. Mayor James is going to be leading a vaccination effort next week, next Saturday at Autumn Woods, for like targeted efforts. And I had shared with them, I think we need to connect with our buildings that's like a one-stop shop, maybe when there's high traffic times or high traffic areas, and have those vaccination units be embedded into the building. And so they said that they can offer up a food resource truck. Now, it's not food like you could go get a hamburger or a hot dog. It's an actual food truck where if you get a vaccination, you could go in and you could be able to go shopping in this truck. So maybe you need eggs, maybe you need bread, maybe you need meat. It's like a little store inside there. And so that truck can be deployed to the site. So once you get your vaccination, then you could go on out and go shopping and get you a bag of free groceries. Maryland Health Connection was also offered up at this meeting, where they can come on site to assist residents navigating their health, seeing if they have enough insurance, and looking at some of the low and discounted insurance options. So I would like to ask the council, I am very involved in vaccinations. Unfortunately, with my full-time job, I kind of got this vaccination thing down to a science. I would love to be the vaccination point person for the town of Bladensburg, and I will be serving at you all's pleasure. You let me know if that's something that is of interest to you. And if not, I think we need to come up with a plan with who's going to be attending these meetings, because all the partners come to this meeting and it's like a plethora of resources. They were throwing resources at me. They said, when can you start? When can you start? She emailed Director Taylor right then and there. He responded back to me. He said, yeah, I'll pay for a game truck. Yeah, when are we going to do it? Like, they really want to vaccinate our residents. And I think this is low hanging fruit and we need to really take advantage of this opportunity. Yield back.
Thank you for that summary, Councilmember Rao. And I think that's a huge opportunity, and do support you moving in that effort. I don't think that has to be our only effort. I think as much as we can get these vaccinations out here, let's just keep plugging. So if a church reaches out, other community groups such as the apartments, let's continue to do that. And where we can connect the dots, let's do it. But I think that's a great opportunity. Just because we're coming to the end of our time for the work session, wanted to just make sure everyone's on the same page. So we finished with item D on the agenda, still have E on old business, in addition to the town community grant under new business, computer purchases for public safety, and these other items here. You all can read them. So either we're going to have to table this until next month, or in the case where some of these things are more time sensitive, agree to move those over to the council meeting agenda. So it may make the most sense that when we start up our 7 o'clock meeting and talk through the agenda, we just compare and move over what's time sensitive, looking at COLA, for example, and the community walk and some of those initiatives like update on our streets, our future. So, and then also the council resolution for Dr. Thomas, that's a critical one because his funeral service is tomorrow. So if I can get a motion to adjourn, let's go through that so you all can take a break. We start back at 7 and again, shift over what needs to be discussed tonight to our council meeting agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Moved by Council Member Mendoza. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Council Member Blunt. Any discussion?
Yes,
Hearing
I have a
none.
question.
Council Member Lundy?
Yes, so is this where I would make a recommendation that we move my colleague's request to the council member agenda to be considered as the vaccination lead person for the town of Bladensburg for this initiative?
It sounds like there was already agreement. I was looking at,
Oh, we don't
you
need
know,
a motion.
everyone. I mean, I don't think so. I feel like we're
Okay.
all on the same page with
Yes,
it. I
okay.
was seeing heads nodding and
Well,
yeah,
Mayor James,
so-
I would like for it to be formal because
Yeah.
I don't want to duplicate any efforts like we've
Right.
done in the past. That's why I specifically made the
Yes.
request for it to be the lead on that.
So I want to move it to the council meeting so we can discuss it and make a motion at that time, or do I make it now?
So
You're making it.
when we get into the 7 o'clock meeting and we're discussing the agenda before we vote, I think it would be appropriate to bring it up at that time.
Okay,
Does
thank you,
that
Mayor
work?
James. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you all. So we have a motion on the table to adjourn. It was made by Councilmember Mendoza, seconded by Councilmember Blunt. I'll now call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. We'll be right back in just another minute.